Well, it's a big day at the Supreme Court, and I'm going to play for you a little bit from Shannon Bream here, who reacted to the rulings as they were coming in. Shannon Bream's always such a great resource for this. We also had Hans von Spakovsky on at the top of the hour to comment, but specifically, I want to play this SCOTUS ruling reaction from Shannon Bream.
This other decision dealing with the border was about if you have to arrive in the U.S. to start an asylum proceeding or an asylum claim, what if you're held on the side in New Mexico? You're not allowed to come in. Immigration advocates had said people should be accepted there, but the court said no. It says we decide only that an alien standing in Mexico does not, quote unquote, arrive in the United States. The INA, International Immigration Law, neither entitles such an alien to apply for asylum nor requires an immigration officer to inspect him. So a win for the Trump administration and the border policy that they're trying to control here, saying if you're not in physically U.S. soil, you cannot apply for asylum claims. More decisions to come.
So Shannon Bream reacting there on Fox News about the asylum claim ruling from the Supreme Court, a big victory for the administration to continue on with their efforts to protect the United States of America through policing our border and also policing illegal immigration. Let's speak to White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson joins us once again. Abigail, thank you for being with us. It's good to have you back on the show.
Hey, Annie, great to be with you.
So talk to me about the administration there, the White House's reaction to this very important ruling from the Supreme Court. How does it feel?
Yes, this is a massive, massive win for the Trump administration, the American people, common sense, and the rule of law overall. I would also point out that we had another great victory today at the Supreme Court in regards to temporary protected status, which the court found that the administration was able to end temporary protected status for certain groups of individuals, Haitians most notably. It was decided today. So these are two big wins for the administration on the immigration front. And really what we think is that our immigration system has been abused and exploited by past administrations and notably Democrat politicians in D.C. And President Trump promised to restore integrity to a previously broken system, and he is doing that. And the court has found that his actions have been lawful, just as we always maintain. So we're feeling great about these decisions and really about what we can do for the American people based off of them.
The White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson speaking with us right now. I've seen this chart usually on X that shows how often courts have come back and tried to brush back the Trump administration and this White House. The frequency with which the courts are wagging their fingers at you guys saying no, no, and then it gets up to the Supreme Court, and most of the time the batting average is looking pretty good for the Trump administration. You guys win. What is it with the court system trying to kind of legislate or litigate what you can and can't do from a very politicized angle?
Extremely politicized. And yes, the unlawful lower court rulings against the Trump administration have just been relentless, honestly. And it's coming from politicized judges who are pushing their own left-wing political agenda. They don't like what President Trump is trying to do, and they don't care that it is lawful, that his actions are lawful. They just don't like it. But luckily, we have a system in the United States where we're able to appeal it up to the Supreme Court. And to your point, the majority of the time we have found that the court has ruled in our favor. And that is because what the administration is doing is lawful. If you look at just these two great rulings today, temporary protected status and the asylum ruling. On temporary protected status, it has always been committed to the discretion of the Secretary of Homeland Security. So when the administration tried to end temporary protected status for certain groups of individuals, we were just following the law as written. You know, it shouldn't have even had to reach this level, but unfortunately there is judicial activism in our country today, and it is just one of the many things President Trump continues to fight in order to get his agenda and the agenda the American people elected him on across the finish line.
You know, I think about the phrase walk and chew gum at the same time, the amount of things that this administration, huge, big, top headline type of things that this administration is juggling. It reminds me of Bert from Mary Poppins when he's the one-man band. You're doing it all. We're speaking with Abigail Jackson, the White House Deputy Press Secretary. I want to talk about the vice president's leading effort against fraud. And every week we have a new story, and we don't hear about millions, we hear about billions. What should the American taxpayer know about the care and concern that this administration has regarding that dollar gets taken out of our paycheck, put into the government, and what past governments, past iterations of executive offices there have overlooked, really, and the amount of fraud that's being perpetrated upon the American taxpayer.
Yes, the Trump administration is extremely committed to cracking down on fraud in our system all across government. Just last week, or just earlier this week, I should say, time really flies by when
sure
you're working
does.
in the Trump administration. The DOJ announced a huge healthcare fraud crackdown, which included different cabinet officials. It was the Attorney General working together with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and they charged 455 defendants in connection with over $6.5 billion in alleged fraud. And that is just one of the many takedowns that the administration has recently announced. There is so much money that past administrations, that Democrats have turned a blind eye to, that is being fraudulently stolen from American taxpayers. And this administration is very, very committed to righting those wrongs and making sure that American tax dollars are well spent. And when fraud is allowed to corrupt our system, especially, in the healthcare system, the American taxpayers pay the price not only in the money they're losing, but costs rise for them, things change in the future. And so we're not just getting taxpayer money back, but we're helping lower costs for the future. We're stopping future fraud instances, and the American people are really going to see the benefits of that.
Speaking with Abigail Jackson, White House Deputy Press Secretary, I think to myself about, it's easy for me in my, comfy chair while I'm sitting in a radio studio talking about politics to think about the taxpayer. But a lot of this healthcare fraud, we've spoken with Dr. Oz. We're very grateful to have that interview a couple months ago where he was talking about leading into California and the hospice fraud that exists there. This isn't just American taxpayers aren't the only people taking advantage of. Actual people who need medical care are caught up in some sort of, purgatory of not being able to get the care they want, not being told they've already been provided care that they never had. I mean, there are actual victims here outside of just the taxpayer that this administration is looking to kind of get some vengeance for and make sure that that doesn't happen anymore either.
Absolutely. And I do think it's easy sometimes to not fully understand victims of fraud and what they have to go through. It's very easy to understand victims of violent crime, or when we see criminal illegal aliens who are hurting American citizens, there is a tangible visual, in many times horrific outcome. And it's easier to visualize and conceptualize. But the individuals who have been victims of fraud, their problems are just as important to the Trump administration, and folks are losing out on healthcare coverage. They're having to pay higher costs. In some cases, their identities are being stolen, and that is creating so much cost and paperwork and time away for them. And so these are real victims, too. The Trump administration knows that, and that's why President Trump and Vice President Vance have dedicated so much time, energy, and resources to combating fraud in our system.
Abigail, how far is this administration willing to go to root out this fraud? I mean, I remember Doge. That was really, a hot thing there, especially going into the election. Americans, I think of both sides of the aisle, were like, yeah, we'd like to see you do a lot with that. And it really got things going. But you've picked it up and you've taken it down the field as well, since Elon Musk hasn't been in the picture specifically. But ignorantly, I didn't think, that Dr. Oz and Health and Human Services and efforts into Medicare and all that, I didn't think that would be the first place. It kind of was out of left field for me, but obviously it shouldn't have been. Are there other areas within the cabinet that are investigating fraud and looking to present to the American people, this is where we found it and this is how we're stopping it?
I think on the fraud front, the Trump administration is just getting started. And
we love to hear it.
See how seriously it's taken, because it is a whole of government effort. It's not just the DOJ. It's not just the vice president. It is literally everyone. So I think you can expect to see more, certainly in the healthcare space, but also largely in benefit fraud. That's another great example of somewhere where there are American victims when there is benefit fraud. There are folks who need and rely on these benefits who are losing out because it has been stolen or someone is fraudulently taking advantage of it. So definitely more to come. I won't get ahead of any ongoing investigations, but certainly watch this space, and the administration will share as much as possible when we can.
Well, we'll be looking forward to all of those announcements. It's definitely a bipartisan concern, and we love to be able to cover the results. Before we let you go, we're speaking with Abigail Jackson, the White House Deputy Press Secretary. We're big on families and kids. I've got 4 myself, and we've seen Carolyn Levitt's face back at the White House. Is she back in a full-time capacity? Because it's exciting to see her, and she looks great.
Yes, it is so awesome to have Caroline back, and she just spent a lot of great time with her family, and of course, we're happy she's back. The American people are happy she's back, and I'm sure you'll see more of her around soon.
Well, congratulations to her and to the White House. You handled her absence incredibly well. We've enjoyed the press conferences with the guest speakers, and Abigail, we're always grateful for your presence here on the Annie Frey Show. Thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, great to be with you. Talk soon.
Okay, sounds good. Take care. Bye-bye. Abigail Jackson is the White House Deputy Press Secretary. You can find her on X at ATJackson47.